Ethan wiped the sweat from his forehead as he loaded the last crate onto the small cargo shuttle. The spaceport was noisy, full of merchants, travelers, and workers hustling to get their jobs done. Even though he was only 17, Ethan had been working at the port for months, learning how to pilot small ships, deliver goods, and fix minor mechanical problems. Life on the edge of the galaxy was never easy, but he liked the challenge. "Careful with that," shouted one of the port workers as Ethan nearly tripped over a loose cable. He smiled and nodded, keeping his balance. Every day was a lesson in quick thinking. Suddenly, the loudspeaker crackled and a panicked voice announced an emergency at one of the docking bays. A shuttle carrying Vaylor, one of the wealthiest alien tycoons in the galaxy, and his pregnant wife, Lyria, was in trouble. The shuttle had lost control while approaching the port, and it was heading straight toward a cluster of inhabited asteroid colonies. Ethan's heart raced. Most people would have stayed back and let the authorities handle it, but something in him pushed him forward. He dashed to his shuttle, started the engines, and shot out of the hangar. The wind of space, the silent vacuum outside, felt different when he was in control of the craft, even if it was just a small cargo shuttle. As he approached the failing vessel, he could see the flashing lights and hear the muffled alarms through the intercom. The shuttle's trajectory was unstable, twisting dangerously as it neared the colony. Ethan quickly calculated a path to intercept it, knowing that even a small miscalculation could end badly for everyone. He maneuvered close to the shuttle and extended his makeshift stabilizing beams, hoping to absorb some of the impact. Sweat poured down his face, but his hands were steady. He focused on the task, tuning out the chaos around him. With careful precision, he locked the stabilizers into the shuttle's frame. The craft wobbled violently, but slowly it began to respond. Inside the failing shuttle, Lyria clutched her growing belly, terrified. "Vaylor, what is happening?" she shouted, fear evident in her voice. Vaylor, a tall, imposing alien with sharp features and golden skin, was trying to control the ship, but the console lights flickered and alarms screamed. "Stay calm, Lyria. I think someone is helping us." Ethan's small shuttle pressed against the larger craft. With one final maneuver, he stabilized it enough to prevent it from crashing. The engines of the failing shuttle roared as the emergency systems kicked in, but it was Ethan's intervention that saved them. Slowly, the shuttle drifted into a nearby docking bay where emergency crews rushed in to assist. When the doors opened, Ethan jumped out, ignoring the dust and sparks flying from the damaged docking bay. Lyria stumbled forward, tears in her eyes. "You saved us. You saved my baby," she cried, grabbing Ethan's hand. Ethan shook his head, blushing. I just did what I could. Anyone else would have tried the same." Vaylor, who had finally stepped out of the shuttle, glared at Ethan at first. The tycoon was used to people trying to help him for rewards or recognition. But this human teen had done it without asking for anything. There was a long silence as Vaylor studied Ethan. You are human," Vaylor said finally, his voice calm but tinged with disbelief. "You risked your life for—" "Nothing?" Ethan shrugged. "I just wanted to make sure no one got hurt." Lyria looked at Vaylor and smiled through her tears. "See? Even a human can have a heart as big as anyone else." Vaylor's expression softened slightly, but he still looked conflicted. He was used to controlling situations with money, influence, and technology. Courage without expectation was foreign to him. Ethan helped Lyria into a small recovery room, making sure she was comfortable. He noticed that the emergency medics were struggling to monitor her safely due to the shuttle's minor damages. Using what he had learned in the cargo shuttles, he quickly adjusted some of the portable systems to stabilize her vital signs. The medics were surprised at how smoothly he handled it. "Where did this kid learn this?" muttered one of the medics. "He's human," another replied with a shrug. "Sometimes they surprise you." After making sure Lyria was safe, Ethan finally stepped back. He was exhausted, but the relief on Lyria's face made it worth every effort. Vaylor stepped forward again, his voice quieter now. I cannot remember the last time anyone acted like that for my family without expecting anything." Ethan smiled politely. "Like I said, I just wanted to help. No one should get hurt if I can stop it." Vaylor looked at him for a long moment, his golden eyes reflecting a mix of awe and something he hadn't felt in years: humility. He realized that courage, selflessness, and quick thinking were traits that not even wealth or advanced alien technology could buy. Later, as the shuttle was secured and repaired, Vaylor finally spoke again, his tone softer, almost vulnerable. "You are extraordinary, Ethan. I don't know how to thank you." Ethan shook his head again. "You don't have to. Just make sure she stays safe." Lyria reached out, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You've already done more than enough. You saved us both." Ethan felt a small smile creep onto his face. Even though he was just a teenager, he realized that humans had a strength that could touch even the most powerful beings in the galaxy. For the first time, he understood that bravery was not about size, strength, or money. It was about the choice to act when it mattered most. As he looked out the viewport at the stars beyond, Ethan knew that his life had changed. He had faced fear, risked everything, and discovered that humanity's courage could shine even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, and somewhere inside he felt that this was only the beginning of a much larger adventure. After the shuttle incident, Ethan found himself invited aboard Vaylor's starship. It was enormous, gleaming with polished metal and glowing lights that reflected across the vast hangar. Ethan had seen ships like this in holo videos, but being on one was completely different. Every corner of the ship seemed alive with activity, from automated maintenance drones to crew members moving with precision. Lyria was recovering well, though she still looked tired from the ordeal. She smiled warmly at Ethan as he helped her adjust to the gravity controls in the medical bay. "You really are something, Ethan. I don't know how we could have survived without you," she said softly. Ethan shrugged. "I just did what anyone would do. I didn't expect to be thanked by someone like Vaylor, though." Vaylor stood nearby, arms crossed, observing silently. His golden eyes followed Ethan's every movement, analyzing him. He was a man used to controlling situations, but Ethan had changed the rules. No amount of wealth or authority could have forced this teenager to act with such bravery and calmness. Over the next few days, Ethan began helping wherever he could. The ship's systems were advanced beyond anything he had worked with before, but his natural curiosity and quick learning allowed him to understand them faster than the crew expected. He repaired minor glitches, recalibrated sensors, and even helped organize the medical bay to make it more efficient for Lyria's care. One afternoon, as Ethan was adjusting the life support system near Lyria's room, Vaylor approached him. "You seem to understand more than I expected," the tycoon said, his voice a mixture of curiosity and respect. "Where did you learn all this?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Mostly from fixing old shuttles and helping people at the spaceport. You have to think fast when lives are at stake." Vaylor looked away, his expression thoughtful. "You humans, sometimes I underestimate you. I forget that courage doesn't come from power or technology. It comes from choice." Ethan paused for a moment. "I guess humans we act when we need to. Sometimes it's the right thing, sometimes it's just instinct. But we try not to let fear stop us." Vaylor nodded slowly. He had always prided himself on his calculations, his ability to predict outcomes, and his control over people and situations. Yet here was a human, young and inexperienced in terms of technology or rank, showing a level of judgment and bravery that far surpassed many of his trained officers. Meanwhile, Lyria's condition was steadily improving, but the pregnancy still demanded careful monitoring. Ethan often volunteered to stay nearby, observing the medical systems, adjusting monitors, or simply offering Lyria conversation to lift her spirits. His kindness and attention did not go unnoticed. One evening, while the ship traveled through a quiet sector of the galaxy, Ethan sat with Lyria in the observation lounge. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the windows, and the hum of the ship was almost calming. "Do you ever get scared?" Lyria asked softly, her hand resting gently on her belly. Ethan considered her question. "Sometimes, but fear doesn't mean you stop, it just makes you more careful, I guess. You learn to act even when you're scared." Lyria smiled. "I think that's why Vaylor is so moved by you. He's not used to anyone acting without thinking of profit or advantage. You've shown him something he forgot existed." Ethan looked down, feeling a bit embarrassed. "I just care. That's all." Back on the bridge, Vaylor watched the two from a distance. He had begun to see something he had never expected to see in a human. A combination of courage, humility, and genuine care for others. It unsettled him, but it also inspired him. He realized that no amount of money, armies, or technology could replicate this strength of character. Over the following days, small incidents began to reveal Ethan's impact even further. A minor system malfunction threatened to overload the ship's engines. The crew panicked, but Ethan calmly assessed the problem and implemented a temporary solution until proper repairs could be made. Vaylor, observing from the bridge, could hardly hide his astonishment. "You act without hesitation," Vaylor said quietly to himself, "and yet you succeed where trained officers might fail." One afternoon, Vaylor finally approached Ethan privately. "I must admit, I am struggling with understanding you," he said. "You risked your life for my family. You helped run this ship better than many of my officers, and yet you ask for nothing in return. Why?" Ethan looked him in the eyes. "Because someone has to. Someone has to care enough to act. I can't let fear or rules stop me when someone's life is at stake. That's all." Vaylor was silent for a long moment. The words struck him in a way that no strategy meeting, profit plan, or negotiation ever had. He had spent his life measuring people by what they could give him or do for him, and now a human teen was showing him the value of selflessness and courage. Then came the moment that would change everything. Ethan approached Vaylor with a simple request. "I don't want your money. I don't want a reward. I just want to help Lyria and the baby. I want to be here if they need me. I want to learn from you and your crew so I can help more in the future." Vaylor stared at him, speechless. This was not a request for recognition, not a demand for power. It was a request grounded in care, responsibility, and trust. For the first time in decades, Vaylor felt vulnerable. He felt tears welling in his eyes as he realized the magnitude of what this human had offered. Not just action, but loyalty and heart. "Ethan," Vaylor began, his voice thick with emotion, I don't know what to say. You've given me more than I could ever pay back." Ethan smiled humbly. "You don't have to. Just let me help." That evening, as the ship sailed quietly through the stars, Vaylor stood on the observation deck, watching the vast expanse of the galaxy. He thought about his life, his wealth, his influence, and then he thought about this human teenager who had risked everything without a second thought. He realized something profound. The courage of humanity was not something that could be measured in money, weapons, or power. It was something deeper, something that could move even the strongest, most calculated alien tycoon to tears. The day finally arrived. Lyria's labor had begun, and the ship's medical team was prepared, but everyone knew that the presence of Ethan made a difference. He had been by her side from the start, calmly assisting the medics, adjusting monitors, and offering words of comfort. His human instincts, quick thinking, and steady hands had already proven invaluable in the past, and now in the most critical moment they were needed more than ever. "Stay calm, Lyria," Ethan said softly, holding her hand. "You're doing great. Just focus on breathing." Lyria nodded, her eyes filled with trust. She had grown to rely on Ethan's presence as a steady anchor in the chaos of space and uncertainty. Vaylor, standing nearby, watched silently. He had always believed that strength came from authority, technology, and wealth. But now, watching Ethan, he realized that true strength could come from courage, humility, and a willingness to act when it mattered most. The medical team worked efficiently, but when a sudden complication arose, tension filled the room. One of the monitors showed irregular readings, and the lead medic's hands shook slightly as he tried to stabilize the situation. Ethan noticed immediately. Without hesitation, he adjusted a secondary control panel, rerouted power to a critical system, and carefully monitored the changes. Slowly, the baby's heartbeat steadied and the room exhaled collectively. Vaylor's eyes widened. You just saved them," he whispered, unable to hide the astonishment in his voice. Ethan shook his head, focused on Lyria. "It's teamwork, just doing what I can." Minutes later, the baby was born safely. The tiny alien child cried, a sound that filled the room with both relief and joy. Lyria, exhausted but smiling, held her newborn close. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at Ethan. "You were right here. You helped me every step," she said, her voice trembling. "Thank you. Thank you for everything." Ethan smiled humbly. "I just wanted to make sure you were safe." "That's all." Vaylor stepped forward, his usual composure shaken. He had always controlled his emotions, even in the most stressful situations. But watching this scene, he could no longer hold back. The sight of his wife and child safe and alive, and the human teen who had made it possible, stirred a deep emotion within him. "You have done more than I could ever repay," Vaylor said, his voice breaking. You've shown me something I forgot existed." Ethan looked at him, still calm, still humble. "I didn't do it for reward. I just cared. That's all a human can do." Vaylor took a deep breath, and for the first time in his life he felt tears welling in his eyes. The powerful tycoon, used to commanding fleets and negotiating galaxy-wide deals, was moved to silence by the simple, selfless courage of a human teenager. As the days passed, Ethan continued to help the young family. He assisted with feeding the baby, monitoring Lyria's recovery, and making sure the ship ran smoothly. His presence became more than just helpful. It became a symbol of hope, trust, and human resilience. The crew, initially skeptical of the young human, began to respect him deeply. They watched how he acted without fear, without hesitation, and without expectation of reward. Slowly, even Vaylor's most loyal officers began to realize that Ethan had something unique, something no training or technology could teach, a heart capable of extraordinary courage. One evening, Vaylor invited Ethan to the observation deck. The stars stretched infinitely beyond the ship, twinkling like distant diamonds. The hum of the engines created a calm rhythm, almost meditative. "Ethan," Vaylor began, his voice quiet, "I have spent my life believing that power and wealth defined strength, that fear and control were the measures of success. But you have shown me the truth. Courage, selflessness, and loyalty. They are stronger than anything money can buy." Ethan looked at him, surprised by the depth of the words. "I'm just a human. I didn't do anything special." Vaylor shook his head. "No, what you did is extraordinary. You faced danger without hesitation, you saved my family, and you did it all without seeking reward. That is something I will never forget." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest, a quiet satisfaction that had nothing to do with fame or money. He realized that humans, despite being small in the vast galaxy, could make a difference that even the most powerful beings could not ignore. The next day, as the ship continued its journey, a celebration was held for Lyria and her newborn. Crew members gathered, offering congratulations and gifts. But the focus remained on Ethan. Everyone knew that without him, the outcome could have been very different. Vaylor approached Ethan privately once more. "I cannot offer you wealth or titles, for I know that is not what you want. But I can offer something more valuable, my trust, my respect, and a place in my family. If you wish, you may stay and help us as part of the ship, as part of our lives." Ethan looked at the tiny alien infant, sleeping peacefully in Lyria's arms, and then at Vaylor's sincere eyes. He nodded slowly. I would like that. I want to help and I want to learn." Tears welled in Vaylor's eyes again. The human teen had done more than save lives. He had opened a new chapter in the tycoon's life, teaching him that courage, compassion, and loyalty were forces stronger than any army, any weapon, or any fortune. From that day forward, Ethan became an integral part of the family. He helped care for the baby, assisted with the ship, and continued to show the crew that humanity's courage could shine even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. The story of the human teen who saved the alien millionaire's wife spread across star systems. It was told not as a tale of wealth or power, but as a story of courage, kindness, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. And Vaylor, once a man who measured people by what they could give him, now measured them by their heart. And in that moment he knew something extraordinary. The galaxy was vast, but humans, small, ordinary, and full of courage, could leave an impact larger than anyone could imagine. Ethan, standing quietly on the observation deck one evening, looked out at the endless stars. He smiled, knowing that even as a human teen he had made a difference that would be remembered across the galaxy. He realized that bravery was not about size, strength, or fame. It was about heart, and in the heart of humanity, he had found a power stronger than any starship or fortune.